For the 9.5 months I took Accutane last year, I came so close to suicide on multiple occasions. It's hard for me to admit it, but I did. My family knew about it too, but every time I felt that low, I'd watch videos and be lifted. It's now 4 months since I finished Accutane. Now if you've been watching my channel for a while, then you already know this, but if you don't, I took Accutane for about 2 years. About 3 years ago is when I ended doing that. And I personally went through a lot of side effects, and I explained them all through my Accutane series, Accutane Adventures. But I had pretty low to moderate side effects. Now I found out later in life you can experience really bad side effects that don't show up for 8, 9, 10 years, which makes me wish that I would have been more informed, which is the reason that I want to make this video, to show you guys the different side effects that all sorts of people are experiencing. Not only my own experience, but also people who are on my YouTube channel, who are on my Snapchat. I've asked a lot of you guys to send me in your side effects. I've looked through the comments and seen the side effects that people have already commented. And in this way, I'm hoping that this can give a different voice than just my own. Show you that these are real people, right? This isn't just stories and stuff that I've Googled or anything like this. These are people who are following my channel, which in respect of all the people who are taking Accutane is actually a fairly small target amount of people. And a lot of these people are experiencing side effects. I'm going to read you a lot of those today. So first off, I'm going to read 2 comments from people who experience what I consider to be the worst side effect that you can have on Accutane, which is suicidal thoughts. And I just want to do this in the beginning of the video so that it doesn't get lost by people who leave before they get to the end of it, because this is possible. It's not, the most common side effect, but a lot of people, I mean a ton of people, have sent me Snapchats, left comments saying that they at some point were thinking about killing themselves because they were on Accutane. Warning, do not go on Accutane if you have a history of depression. It will cause severe depression if you are susceptible. My brother tried to commit suicide because of this medication and felt immediately better once he went off of it. Do not let a dermatologist talk you into it unless you are sure either you won't get side effects as severely or you can handle them. And then another one goes on to say, for the 9.5 months I took Accutane last year, I came so close to suicide on multiple occasions. It's hard for me to admit it, but I did. My family knew about it too, but every time I felt that low, I'd watch videos and be lifted. It's now 4 months since I finished Accutane. So it's really not that uncommon for this to happen, actually. I've had a lot of people send me Snapchats that say that they've been through this, but as soon as I punched in Accutane suicidal on my comment search, I found tons of these. I don't want to just read tons of these over and over and over and over, but you get the point, right? You can even Google this. You can look up Accutane depression, Accutane suicide, and there are a lot of stories about this. So I personally think that if you have any of those kind of feelings in the first place, if you are going through depression, Accutane is something you should really stay away from. But even if you're someone like me who's happy-go-lucky and jolly, it can happen. It can trigger these thoughts for you. So just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go through and read a couple messages about each different side effect, and I'm going to give also my personal experience with those things. I took it for about 3 months before my insurance interrupted. I didn't really think I was any different, but my best friend says I was kind of hard to be around, so he gave me some space. I was really quick to anger. I just started again, hoping all will be good this time. In this case, he didn't even realize that he was acting differently than he usually acts, and his friend had to actually tell him that he was acting differently. Me and my best friend both took Accutane in high school. I had almost no side effects except for dry skin and chapped lips. My friend, on the other hand, had really bad side effects. It really messed up his blood levels and also made him depressed and gave him really bad anxiety. He never had anxiety before taking it, and now he still has to deal with some pretty bad anxiety. It was so bad he had to stop out of school halfway through his senior year of high school. Just shows how different Accutane can affect different people. That's exactly what I'm trying to say here. A lot of us will just kind of say, oh, I've had a friend or a family member who has taken it before, they're fine, thus no worries. At least inform yourself and be aware of the side effects, and be aware that there is a percentage chance that it's going to happen to you, and then decide whether or not you will be able to live with these things that are happening. Here's another one with back pain, also mixed in with drinking. I found out that I would sporadically have lower back pumps or pain. It was only when I was getting on the medication that it happened. Also, getting drunk was terrible. That's an interesting side note. The hangover the next morning would be insanely worse than usual. Other than that, just the usual dry skin, etc., etc. I want to point out that the back pain one is extremely common. I get that message every single day. I get that all the time. I even experienced extremely bad back pain that I wasn't really sure was coming from Accutane, but then I realized that it was because it was only happening after about 3 months or 4 months of taking Accutane that started happening. Where when I was doing deadlifts or squats, or even sometimes just lifting things in odd positions, really hurt, especially the upper part of my back, so the thoracic part of my spine. That only occurred after I started taking Accutane. And I think that's something that I personally want to kind of convey really strongly, is that that's a very common side effect that very well might happen to you. I think this is also very interesting because he says that the hangover the next morning was insanely worse than usual. I was never a really big drinker, so I never put a lot of caution in my videos when I was explaining my Accutane series that you should really not drink on Accutane. because I wasn't a big drinker, so it didn't really matter to me to say that. It didn't come to the forefront of my thoughts. But if you are someone who likes to drink a lot, if you drink on a weekly occasion, every single weekend, or even more, you know a lot of people drink very often, you absolutely should not take Accutane. And if you're not ready to give it up, then don't take Accutane. Accutane is such a heavy strain on your liver that if you're also doing anything else that is straining your liver, and drinking is one of those things, you're not only going to cause a lot of damage to your liver, but you could also cause damage to yourself in other ways. So this one's gonna be about dryness, and I do wanna note that dryness it's probably the most common. I would say it's absolutely the most common one you're gonna get. So that's why I haven't really put a lot of emphasis in this video about that, because you're gonna see that anywhere. You've seen that before in my videos. The entire time that you're on Accutane, you are going to have to use some sort of lip balm, and you're going to absolutely have to have moisturizer all the time, and if you don't remember those things, you are going to suffer. So just keep that in mind as a minimal side effect. But this is the one that he said that I thought was very interesting, because this is a little bit different than the way I had to experience it. Right, so the biggest thing I feel that isn't out there is the dry eyes. As a contact lens wearer, it's made things so uncomfortable. I also feel like it's dried out the skin of my eyelid. Also, what I'm interested in finding out is if there's any correlation between Accutane and itches. Like if I exercise, it equals a really weird tingling itch. If I go out in the sun, same thing. And it only started with Accutane. Here's another one that kind of goes off the last one with the itchiness. Lots of weird skin rashes and bumps and slow healing cuts and bad sunburns, dry lips 24/7, red itchy eyes, itchy forearms and ankles. So I think reading these comments is really good because it's kind of triggering things for me too. When it comes to him saying slow healing cuts, I hadn't remembered that one. That actually did happen to me quite a few times. Like for example, my cat would scratch me or something because we're playing, or my dog, you know how your dog will try to like play, but he'll put his hands up on you and then kind of scratch down your arm or something. I would get these really quickly happening scratches. They would turn red and they would stay there for a long time. If I actually broke the skin while I was maybe cutting something or whatever it was that I got a scratch, it would take so much longer to actually repair. And that's because your skin is drier. He also mentions a really bad sunburn, which we're gonna get into in a minute. But for me personally, when I was out in the sun, I would maybe 10 seconds into the sun, I could feel myself burning, and that really sucked. If you let yourself get a sunburn, it actually gets to such a severe level that you start to blister up. If you look up on the internet, you can look up Accutane bad sunburn, I believe, and this girl's covered in these blisters because I think she tried to tan or she fell asleep on the beach, something like that. So here's some more stories about the sunburn thing. I took Accutane for a treatment of 6 months. It did exactly what it was supposed to do and really cleared up my skin, but the side effects got to the point where I had to quit this treatment. The main issue was being out in the sun. I'm really pale and still applied liberal amounts of sunscreen, but if I was in the sun for more than 15 minutes, I'd be as red as a tomato. It got so bad that whenever I drove, I had to make sure my whole face was covered with a scarf or else it would get burnt. But the worst side effect to me was the random flushing. My face would become super flushed out of nowhere. It was hot, painful, and super embarrassing. See, there's another perfect example. Literally, this person had to cover their face while they were driving because the sun coming through the windows was too much. That's something that I experienced too. Even sun that was coming through windows was sometimes too bright, I guess, and it would actually, I could feel it burning. Mad headaches, always angry, worst sunburn ever seen, can't eat or yawn properly, and depression. All G now, thanks for your videos. So again, another one about sunburn and a few other side effects as well. So here's another side effect that was pretty common that I've gotten a lot of Snapchats before and I've got a lot of comments about. Unfortunately, I didn't save a ton of these, so I'm just using this one to kind of show the side effect itself, but I'll talk about it in a second. I'm on my 3rd month of Accutane. The first 2 months, besides the obvious dryness, I had horrible migraines every single day. Still get them every once in a while, but not every day anymore. Other than that, my experience has been good and I haven't had any other side effects. A lot of people report really bad migraines. So I think if you're someone who already experiences migraines pretty common, or even just really strong headaches, that when you take Accutane, be aware that you're probably more predisposed to having that happen, having these really severe migraines and headaches than the average person is. So keep in mind that that might happen. Now on to nosebleeds. This actually happened to me a little bit. It wasn't heavy blood flowing out of my nose, but I remember my nose would bleed every once in a while, maybe if I had been sneezing a lot or if the day was extremely dry. That would happen a lot, where I'd feel like something was going, like I feel like there was some sting in my nose. I put a piece of paper towel in my nose, I pull it out, and there would be blood all around it. Now these are probably going to be a little bit more gruesome, so let me read them. Hi Brian, fan of your videos. Just wanted to say I was on Accutane for about 6 months a few years ago and had nosebleeds nearly every few days that would last for ages and wouldn't stop. Was very depressed on what I think was my last day, but fine after that. A few episodes of feeling depressed after stopping Accutane, but may not have been directly caused by that. Took Accutane for just shy of 5 months last year. Was awful. Dry skin, lips cracking, skin cracking, and bleeding on my lower arms. Nosebleeds 3/4 of the week in the later stages. Joint pain, rectal bleeding, and major depression. Bad times, wouldn't touch this stuff ever again. See, this is somebody who has taken it and is saying that he would never take it again. So there are cases where people are going to say, yeah, I had some side effects and it worked out really well for me, and other times where people are going to say, it doesn't matter what happened with my acne, I would never take this again. This one is a little bit short and to the point, but I shit blood on it a few times. I've had people message me before with very long ones, and I wish I would save them all when they send me these, but I've had people where they describe what happened and they would not have anything happen 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks into it. Then they would notice a little bit of blood, and then they would notice that blood was happening probably every second or third time they were pooping. And this could be from either the inside of you, bleeding internally, or it can happen from your actual, this is a little graphic, but just stay with me here, we're talking about Accutane side effects. Sphincter of your butthole actually got so dry that it would crack as you're pooping, and that would cause the blood. Now again, I want to point out that these messages are people who are following me directly. This isn't a survey of the entire world. This is just people who follow me, which is, you know, a relatively small group. And I want to also point out that a lot of these people were on regular low to average doses, which is somewhere, you know, 20 to 60 milligrams, 80s getting high. I was taking 160 milligrams at a certain point. Just notice that even these people who are taking lower doses are having much, much worse side effects than I've had. So if you're using me as a gauge for whether or not you're gonna have side effects, that's not proper. It's like rolling the dice. You may or may not have them, and you should really take it seriously. I'm not saying you shouldn't take Accutane at all, but I'm saying that you should definitely take these things seriously. If I can urge you to do one thing, is to look a little bit deeper, take a little bit more time, and decide if you really have tried everything you can try, vetted every option that you can try, including diet, to get rid of your acne before jumping on Accutane. And then again, really evaluating these side effects and deciding if these side effects are acceptable to you or not. If you haven't tried these 3 things to get rid of your acne before you even think about taking Accutane, then you should definitely try this. Get rid of dairy 100% out of your diet, period. No cheese, no dairy, no derivatives, no milk powder at the end of the ingredients, anything like that. Get at least 10, but try to aim up towards 16 servings of vegetables per day, and drink at least a gallon of water a day. In addition to that, if you haven't gone through my videos before, go through my videos, just scroll until you see titles that are interesting to you, because I've covered a lot of different aspects in terms of acne, in terms of products, in terms of things that you can try, and you should definitely try those things out before you even consider getting on Accutane. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have dealt with any side effects with Accutane, that is a perfect place to kind of share your story, because people are going to be watching this who are thinking about taking Accutane, and you can give your story of someone who has taken Accutane and whether or not you have experienced side effects and how severe they were. So I would really appreciate that if you'd leave a comment. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Team Beyond the Week, CT.
Lift heavy or die Myron, motherfucker.
Team Beyond the Week,
CT. Lift heavy